Daf Yomi, Tractate, Bava Metzia, page 109, top of the page, starting with the Mishnah, with the words Makabel Sada Mechavero Shanim Meutos, etc. The Mishnah says, one who receives a field from another to cultivate for a few years, in other words, fewer than 7, may not plant flax in it, as flax greatly weakens the soil. And if a sycamore tree was growing in the field, he does not have rights to the beams fashioned from the branches of the sycamore tree. Therefore, he may not cut down its branches for his own use, as it takes many years for new ones to grow. If he received the field from him for 7 years, in the first year he may plant flax in it, and he does have rights to the beams fashioned from the branches of the sycamore tree. Gemara, the Talmud says, Abaya says, though he does not have rights to the beams fashioned from the branches of the sycamore tree, he does have rights to the value of the enhancement of the sycamore tree. In other words, the value of its growth that occurred while he was cultivating the field. And Rava says he does not even have rights to the value of the enhancement of the sycamore tree. The Gemara raises an objection to Rava's opinion from a Braita. With regard to one who receives a field from another to cultivate, and his time to leave arrives, the court appraises its value for him. What, is it not that the court appraises for him the value of the enhancement of the sycamore or other trees? The Gemara responds, no. No. The court appraises for him the value of the vegetables and meats left in the field. The Gemara challenges, if it is referring to vegetables and beets, I wonder why it says vegetables and beets. Isn't beet a vegetable? Anyway, let him uproot and take them. The Gemara explains it is referring to a case where the market day has not yet arrived, so that if he uproots them now, he will not be able to sell them. He therefore leaves them for the owner of the land and receives money instead. The Gemara suggests, Tashema, come in here, another proof from a Braita in the case of one who receives a field from another to cultivate, and the sabbatical year arrived, the court appraises it for him. The Gemara first expresses puzzlement over the Braita itself. Does the sabbatical year release land from the one who contracted to cultivate it? The arrangement is in effect during this time. So why is there a need for an appraisal? The Gemara responds, rather say that the Braita reads as follows. In the case of one who receives a field from another to cultivate and the Jubilee year arrived, the court appraises it for him. The Gemara asks, but still, this is difficult. Does the Jubilee year release the term of a contractor? The Merciful One states, permanently. Leviticus 25:23. Which indicates that only land that was permanently sold to its owner, whereas land that was rented does not revert to the owner at the Jubilee year. Rather, say that the Braita reads as follows. In the case of one who purchases a field from another and the Jubilee year arrives, the court appraises it for him. And if you would say that so too here, it means that the court appraises it for him with regard to vegetables and beets. This cannot be, as vegetables and beets in the Jubilee year are ownerless. This is because the Jubilee year is like the sabbatical year in that any produce, it actually is another sabbatical year, but anyway, in that any produce that grows is ownerless. Oh, maybe it's the 50th year, so it's like a sabbatical year, okay. Rather, is the Braita not referring to the enhancement of the value of the sycamore that occurred during the time he had owned the field? It must be referring to this, and therefore presents a difficulty to Rava. Abaye interpreted the Braita so that it is in accordance with the opinion of his disputant Rava. There it is different, as the verse states, then the house that was sold shall go out in the Jubilee, Leviticus 25:33, which teaches that the house or field that was sold returns to its owner, but the value of its enhancement does not return, but remains with the buyer. The Gemara asks, if so, let us derive from it a general halacha, that the value of enhancement need not be returned. The Gemara answers the two cases are dissimilar, as there in the Braita it is a full-fledged sale and the Jubilee released it, as it is a release of the king, a divine decree. Since the buyer had been in full ownership of the field, he keeps the value of the enhancement that occurred while it was his. By contrast, one who receives a field to cultivate is not an owner. The Gemara relates Rav Papa received land as a contractor for growing hay. During the time he was cultivating it, palm trees sprouted in the ground. When he left the land, he said to the owners of the field, give me the value of the enhancement to the field from the palm trees. Rav Shesha, the son of Rav Edi, said to Rav Papa, if that is so, in other words, if your claim is justified, then in a situation where there was a palm tree and it grew thick, so too would the master, in other words, Rav Papa, want to be paid for the value of the tree's enhancement. Rav Papa said to him, there, in that theoretical case, the cultivator did not descend to the field with that possibility in mind, as the cultivator considered only the consumption of the date palm's fruit, not its growth. Here, in my case, I did indeed descend to the field with this in mind, as I anticipated receiving compensation for any growth of the field. The Gemara asks, in accordance with whose opinion did he make this statement? It is not in accordance with the opinion of Abaye, who says that he does have the right to the value of the enhancement of the sycamore. The Gemara refuses this claim. You may even say that he holds in accordance with the opinion of Rava, as there the cultivator suffers no loss when the sycamore grows in the field, so he is not entitled to the value of the enhancement as compensation. By contrast, here there is a loss, as the palm trees that sprouted occupied space designated for hay. Rav Shesha says to Rav Papa, but here to the owner of the field can say, what loss have I caused you? I have caused you to lose a handful of hay. Take a handful of hay and go. Papa said to him, I claim that I grew garden saffron there. He claimed that he lost land that he could have used for the cultivation of expensive produce, not only hay. Shesha said to him, even so, you admit that you wanted the land for other plantings, not to plant palm trees. And you have thereby revealed your intention that you acted so as to take the produce and leave. Take your garden, saffron, and leave, as you have rights only to the value of wood alone. Since you did not mean to grow these trees, you are entitled only to the price you could have received for the palm trees had you had rooted them and sold them as wood during the time you cultivated the field. Rav Bivi bar Abaye kol ariv ahadar le mishunite. So the Gemara relates to another incident. Rav Bivi bar Abaye received land to cultivate, and he surrounded it with a fence made of earth. In the meantime, trees sprouted in it. When he left the field, he said to the owners, give me my value of the enhancement of the trees that sprouted. Rav Papi said, is it because you come from unfortunate people that you say unfortunate and unsound words? Huh. Abaya's family came from the family of Eli, of Eli, whose descendants were sentenced to die at a young age. Rav Papa explains, even Rav Papa said only he is entitled to the value of the enhancement of the palm trees when he has suffered loss, as they take up part of the field. Here, by contrast, what you have, as the trees sprouted in a place that would have been left unplanted, since you have not lost anything, and you are not entitled to compensation. Rav Yosef, more relates, Rav Yosef had a certain planter whose job it was to plant trees similar to a sharecropper. He died and left behind 5 sons-in-law. Rav Yosef said, until now I had to deal with only one person. Now there are 5. Until now they did not rely on each other to plant the trees and did not cause me a loss, as the responsibility was their father-in-law's. But now that they are 5, they will rely on each other to plant the trees and cause me a loss. In light of these considerations, he decided to discontinue the agreement with them. Rav Yosef said to them, if you take the value of your enhancement that you brought to the field and remove yourselves, all's well. But if not, I will remove you without giving you the value of the enhancement. Rabbi Yosef explains the statement, as Rabbi Yehuda says, that some say it was Rav Huna, and some say it was Rav Nachman. With regard to this planter who died, his heirs may be removed without receiving the value of the enhancement. More comments, but this is not correct, as the halacha is not in accordance with this opinion. More relates another incident. There was a certain planter who said to the owner, "If I cause a loss to the vineyard by ruining its plants, I will leave the field." Ultimately, he indeed caused a loss to the plants, but some enhancement from the time he began did still exist. Rabbi Yehuda said he leaves without receiving payment for the enhancement, while Rav Gana said he leaves and takes the payment for the enhancement resulting from his work. And Rav Gana concedes that if he said, "If I cause a loss, I will leave without receiving payment for the enhancement," he indeed leaves without receiving payment for the enhancement. Conversely, Rava said, a promise of this kind, which he does not expect to have to fulfill, is a transaction with an inconclusive intent, asmachta. And the halacha is that an asmachta does not affect acquisition and is therefore not legally binding. The Gemara asks, and according to Rava, in what way is it different from that which we learned in the Mishnah 104a, that the recipient of the field stipulates, "If I let the field lie fallow and do not cultivate it, I will pay with the best quality produce," in which case is obligated to fulfill his promise. The more answers there he pays for the loss he caused, while here we deduct from him the loss that he caused, and we give him the other portion of the money. He does not forfeit all that was due to him just because some of his plantings were unsuccessful. The Gemara relates that Runia was the planter of Ravina. He caused a loss, and Ravina removed him from his field. Runia came before Rava and said to him, "Let master see what Ravina has done to me." Rava said to him, "Ravina did well, as you caused him a loss." Runia said to him, "But Ravina did not warn me beforehand. How could he force me to leave without prior warning?" Rava said to him, "In this case, it is not necessary to provide a warning." The Gemara comments, Rava conforms to his line of reasoning, as Rava said with regard to a teacher of children, a planter, a ritual slaughter, and a bloodletter. And we'll continue 109b.